Okay, our next speaker is Makoto Takemiya from Soramitsu. He will be talking about Iroha. Please welcome Makoto.
Great. So here we go. So my name is Makoto Takemiya. Actually, I'm based here in Tokyo most of the time. We have an office in Harajuku. Our company is called Soramitsu. So we were the original creators and contributors of Hyperledger Iroha, and then after giving that to the Linux Foundation, now it's an open source platform that anyone can use freely and contribute to. I'll talk a little bit about Iroha and some of the differences to other platforms, and then also some of the use cases that we use. But just as a kind of an overview, we use Iroha for a few different, what I think are interesting use cases. One is we're working with the National Bank of Cambodia, which is the central bank of Cambodia, and this system went live last week with real money, and it's a retail payment system for the Kingdom of Cambodia, and we've been working on this for over 2 years. But what it is it's a way for giving financial services to anyone, even without a traditional bank account, which is a huge need in many developing countries. We're also working with another Hyperledger member, which is the National Settlement Depository of Russia, which is a part of the Moscow Exchange Group, and also KDD of Slovenia, on a project called D3 Ledger. And this is also completely open source. It's on GitHub, you can check it out. But this uses Iroha to provide custodial services for digital assets. And we also built a bridge as part of this to other blockchains like Ethereum and Bitcoin. And in the future, you could extend this to other platforms as well. And then, just as an overview, we're also working with Polkadot, which is a kind of a blockchain of blockchains type of project. And we hope to incorporate this into this bridge in the future with D3 and Iroha. And finally, we've been doing work with self-sovereign identity with the bank in Indonesia. That's a BCA. So Iroha is a little bit different from a philosophical standpoint from other projects, which is good and bad. So it's good for some use cases. I think one of the main use cases we looked at was digital payments, especially retail payments. And because of that, we focused a lot on making SDKs to make it easier to create mobile and web applications that interact with the blockchain. So in our worldview, it's not enough to just have a backend system. You need to also have the interface to be able to have normal people, like your grandmother, to be able to interact with the blockchain. And so we put a huge effort into SDKs, for example, native Swift libraries for iOS and for Android, where you can build mobile applications that can interact with the blockchain, even without middleware, if you design your system right. So some of the, one of the main features, I guess, compared with many other blockchains is instead of supporting a Turing-complete language, we're kind of more old-fashioned in a way. So we have a set of predefined commands, and these commands are, and this is just a subset of commands that we have. These commands are really something that you can just execute as an atomic unit. So instead of, if you want to create a new currency, instead of creating your own smart contract and chain code, you can just execute a command like a create asset. And after creating this asset, you can transfer to another person by calling transfer asset. And part and parcel with these commands is also a data model. So the font's a little weird, but you can ignore that. What we have is just a very simple data model where you have a domain, and a domain is like a box that you put different things in, right? But in this domain, what you can have are different assets, and you can have different accounts. And an asset is just some kind of countable object that has some kind of semantic meaning that people give value to. And an account is an account that works on the blockchain. So this is a ledger entry, in other words. We also have some really, I think, kind of cool things that are very simple yet powerful. And one of that is we have a role-based permission system. So every account can have roles associated with it. And every account can also have multiple signatories. So in the blockchain system, of course, you typically use public-private key cryptography to digitally sign transactions. And in Iroha, what you can do is you can have multiple keys or multiple key pairs associated with each account. And this gives you the ability to create multi-factor, two-factor, multi-factor transactions. An example would be if you are a bank, if you want to have an authorizer for a transaction, typically you won't just have one person signing off on a transaction. You have a team of people. For example, 3 out of 5 people have to sign off, and then the transaction is valid. And this can be modeled directly on the blockchain itself without having to have middleware on top of this. So that's kind of our philosophy. Our philosophy is you can build many of these little pieces, and then you can combine them to create complex logic, kind of like Lego blocks, where you can take many little pieces and make a huge building out of them. So you can't do everything, but for some defined subset of problems, we try to make it as easy as possible. And here's an example of the permission system real quick. One of the really cool things about blockchain, of course, is governance. So in systems like Bitcoin, you don't need an administrator. You don't need to have any central authority you can trust. Because the rules of the system, the way the system is constructed, make it so you don't have to have that. We wanted to kind of approach this also even in the enterprise space by being able to model governance structures using the permission system. So an example would be if you wanted to model like a tripartite system, you could have like a legislative branch, a judicial branch, and an executive branch, where the legislative type of branch would be kind of like the system admins. And this could be one person or a team of people using multi-sig. And you can also have the judicial type of branch, which would be the auditors of the system, looking at all the transactions, making sure they're correct. And then you can have the executive that creates the assets, that transfers the assets to different people. So this is kind of a way to split the governance, and this can be done directly on the blockchain itself without using middleware by giving permissions to this user, so this user can create new assets and transfer them, and give some of the permissions to this user here, where they can be able to sign the different roles to these people, and then this user can just query for the assets and make sure that everything is right. So we try to use this type of model in many of our applications, and this is all open source, and we hope you can work on it. I don't really have time to talk about these other different applications, but I will be sitting right there near the beer, so please come to me and let's talk about it. Thanks.
Thank you, Makoto-san.